teacher, how do you find that? How do you find it? Do you find you're a little bit ostracized sometimes? Maybe you don't know whether to promote it in class. Maybe you don't know whether it's right or wrong, or you're judged by others. Who knows? We're live from London. This is the Sunday Brunch with Graham Columb on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/LSW/TT Radio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio. Yes. Hello, world of Teachers Talk Radio listeners and fellow hosts all coming into the room. Good to have you here. I'm your host, Graham Columb, and you are listening to Teachers Talk Radio on the Sunday Brunch. If you're listening live, then it should be just about 11 o'clock on your Sunday morning. And welcome. I hope you're having a lovely Sunday. Of course, it's the end of half term, guys. It's the end of half term. So I hope you've had a lovely one. It's a lovely day today, isn't it? Who's got some nice plans for later today? We're hoping to make it out to a place called Stubbers. It's a little activity centre near us where you got climbing walls and lovely walks and lakes and things. Just thinking of taking the little man there and grab a coffee or something when we're out. Should be a nice start to the end of our half-term break. I hope you've all had a good one. Welcome people flowing into the studios at the start of this show. I say into the studio. I always use that phrasing, into the studio. And I realise there's nobody in the room here with me. I mean, listening in to the realm of Teachers Talk Radio. I'm live streaming. Hello, live world. Hello, Sobia. Good to see you here. Hello, Mal, Tim, Seema, Tom Hopkins Burke. I've got Nilda, maybe Nilda. I don't quite know that listener's name, how to pronounce, but good to have you all here. I don't know why with Tom Hopkins Burke. I always call you Tom Hopkins Burke. Don't know why that is. Is that a thing? Do a lot of people call you Tom Hopkins Burke, or do some people just call you Tom? That would seem very odd to me if I just called you Tom, which is odd in itself, surely. Anyway, welcome to the Sunday Brunch on Teachers Talk Radio. Tom says Tom will do. All right, there's something quite abrupt about that, Tom. I'll take that as a serious note. Tom will do. Tom. Newsreader Tom. Tim is listening from the moor, of course. Tim, do you live on the moors? I have a feeling you might just have a tent permanently there to listen to Teachers Talk Radio with your lovely mug. That's to say the mug that you drink from, although I'm sure your face is lovely as well. Yes, good. Enjoying times on the moors. Very nice. Lovely way to spend the last day of your half term. There is lots of Toms, Mal says. 2 Toms and a Tim. Yes, indeed. All we need now is a Jim and a John. Tim's just not far. He's not far from the moors, of course. Easy access. And you know what? If we lived that near to the moors, I'm sure we'd all be there, or we should all be there as often as you're there. Tom says enough Toms for a sat nav. Boom, boom. Very, very nice, Tom. That's fast for a Sunday morning. You clearly have been awake already, listening to Sobia's wonderful show already today. Yes, this is Teachers Talk Radio, and we have a whole host of hosts at the moment. We have a wonderful, wonderful schedule. If you're listening, it's not always me, Graham Columb, rambling on. We now have a full Saturday schedule and a full Sunday schedule, which is to say 5 separate shows on a Saturday, 5 separate shows on a Sunday, all occupied and taken with hosts. After me, at 1 o'clock, you're going to have the wonderful Khalil Rouse coming in. He used to be our Saturday evening host, but now he is our Sunday lunch host. Then after that, we have Fiona Salt, who's in, I think, on her first show today. Tell me if I'm wrong. Fiona, I think, is on her first show, on the Twilight show. And then later today, I think we have Tony Breslin coming in as well. So good times. Good time to Teacher Talk Radio. We also have a massive schedule in the week. 4 shows on Monday, 6 shows on Tuesday. 6, I said. 4 on Wednesday, 5 on Thursday, 4 on Friday. You can't say we don't give you enough, guys. If you ever want to listen to different aspects of teachers, different voices of teaching, this is the place to be. Now, funnily, Tom Hopkins Burke, you say you've just been jabbed. And me too, pal. Me too. I was jabbed yesterday at around 3 p.m. And that was actually going to be one of my opening statements today on the show, is to say, guys, I've been jabbed. I was actually going to open with 2 apologies, all right? 2 apologies on behalf of this. One is that I've been jabbed, so I don't know that I'm going to be entirely on form. I may have to step down the energy at some point and just coast through in a chilled Sunday kind of way if the jab gets a bit much for me, because I actually slept for more than 12 hours following the jab, would you believe? I had it about 3, put my head down at about 5 p.m., and woke up about 6:15, and that was it, just fully out. And I could still could have slept. I only got up at that point because the little man demanded it. So yeah, more than 12 hours sleep, 13 hours sleep after the jab, and now I'm feeling a little bit woozy. So you've got some live AstraZeneca hosting here. This is what it sounds like to have an AstraZeneca injected host for the second time. Feeling healthy. I thought good morning, Woody. Good to have you in the room. I thought after the 13-hour sleep, I might wake up with some kind of superpowers, like in Spider-Man after he's bitten by the spider. He goes down, doesn't he, for a long sleep. And then when he wakes up, doesn't need glasses anymore. He's super strong. All that stuff didn't happen to me. Woke up, just had to look after the kid, really. nothing particularly amazing. I am not Spider-Man, Mal says. That is a mantra I need to say more often to myself in life. I was walking home the other day and I was literally wondering about whether we could technically develop kind of cables to swing around places. Turns out it's not a practical idea the more I thought about it. But anyway, I guess we should talk about something related to teaching, seeing as we're on Teachers Talk Radio. Oh, it's good. It's good to be here. Happy end of half term, guys. I hope you've had a wonderful one. I hope you've rested. I always say that with a slight self-doubt in my voice. I hope you rested, but I have a feeling a lot of you have been busy. It's just something about it right now. And the next 6 weeks are looking crazy. My next 6 weeks seem to have more work than we've ever had in the last half term. And yet the last half term is always a killer. And yet we've got reports, we've got assessments, we've got end of year performance, we've got a trip with the year sixes, and all the other bits in between. It's crazy. I'm really glad. Woody says, I did zero work. You know what? I've been loving it on Twitter this week. There's been a good push for promoting the zero workload. Tom Rogers, even captain of the Teachers Talk Radio ship, he posted yesterday I think he posted this morning that he's left all of his marking to today, to say that he hasn't done classwork over the rest of the holidays. And I think that's brilliant. If that's what you've done, if that's what he's done, awesome. There was another tweet I saw this morning, and it said, hands up if your laptop is still in its bag and has been since 4 p.m. last Friday. Another person opting out of working through their half term. Brilliant. Go teachers, show the world how it should be done, and that we should not be slaving away in our free time. Our free time is our free time. Use it, own it, enjoy it. Good. I'm really loving that push. So thank you, Woody, for bringing that into the room. Tim says he did his half-term marking this morning. That sounds awesome. If you got that all out the way in the morning, on we go with enjoying the end of your half-term. Enjoying the Sunday in the half-term is important, isn't it? It's nice to have that last breather. Sometimes I find I really enjoy the Sunday because you almost make most of it right before you have to go back. Tom says he's doing his half-term marking now. That's not good, Tom, but hopefully we'll be done soon, and hopefully you haven't been doing lots and lots over the break in general. Woody didn't take her marking home. That's what I like to hear. I didn't take marking home, but I've had reports hanging over me. So swings and roundabouts, people. But congrats. I hope if you have relaxed in your half term, you have done well. If you haven't, what can I say? Thoughts on a postcard, and I'll tell you what you should be doing in your half term. But it's good. Tom says nothing much over half term. So it looks like we've got a lot of relaxed teachers, hopefully at the moment. Hopefully no Sunday, pre-Monday dread creeping in yet. Hopefully we're all kind of not too worried about that and just going to flow into work tomorrow and take things as they come for the first few days. Hey, we know it's going to be a big 6 weeks, so let's try and last them out by not burning out too early. Only have 4 weeks to go, but it's incredibly busy. 4 weeks. Well, this is the thing. We have a shorter half term. So Tim's saying he has 4 weeks to go in his half term. I have 6 weeks, which is shorter than usual. Usually we have a 7 or 8 week last half term. And the thing is, we have less crammed into that. So usually that last half term would just be a little bit of performance practice that would be done. And then, reports would be the big thing. And that would be it, really, transitions to secondary school. Whereas this time, all the stuff that would have been done last half term is also being pushed into this final half term. So we got less time. We got a fair bit more of the work. We'll see how it goes, I wonder. But we're all in it together, kids. We're all in it together. So let's just see how it all goes. What else has been going on in the world? COVID has continued to invade our headlines, hasn't it? Like I said, I'm on my second jab, feeling okay, slept like crazy, but feeling okay, and glad to be hopefully fully immunized for now against kind of fellow strains of COVID and things like that. But it has been in the news because old Portugal has been moved from the green list to the red list, meaning that it's not good to travel to. It's not, the government is not allowing people to travel to Portugal, I guess, after saying you're good to travel. And people clearly identify. I know a number of people personally who saw it as Portugal's open, good times. We can have a summer holiday. We can have a bit of the beach. We can have a sunset on a beach in Portugal. Let's book. And a lot of people booked. And of course, Portugal's probably been looking forward to having a lot of this tourism coming in. And then in the last week or so, they've moved it. They've said, no, just kidding. It's no longer on the green list. It's now on the red list. What does that mean for your holidays? Is anybody in the room now? Does anybody have a botched holiday in the room thanks to our government's kind of turnaround on that? I can't say, I don't want to lean too much into the criticism of it, because if it does lead to safety, if it is an idea that seems, maybe it seemed safer previously, but now some numbers are going up, they've had to change their tack. I can understand that. Maybe they were too flippant in opening up to the green list to begin with, and they should have put more thought into that. Obviously, it's just not a nice thing to go through, and it's a lot of inconvenience and stress. Probably booking the holiday in the first place was a lot of inconvenience and stress. I know a lot of people had to then look up, well, how am I going to go on this holiday and get all my tests and checks before the holiday? That would be a lot of stress. And then to have it cancelled, well, now there's a bunch more stress about having to cancel it and get their money back and all of that. So I can see both sides. I can see that it's not nice, but I can also see that it might be for the best in the long run. And I'm all about a bit of sacrifice in the short term for long-term gains. Woody says, I'm worried about COVID. No holiday booked. I just didn't feel that thinking we'll get back to normal. Yeah, I have to say I didn't book a holiday neither. I'm hoping to book one over to Ireland to see my parents. But aside from that, I'm not booking any exotic holidays for the same reason. I just don't think we're there yet. I can totally get why people would, and I get that feeling of like, let's just go somewhere. I don't care where it is. I just want to get out and see something different. But yes, the thought about things getting back to normal, Woody says, yeah, I just didn't feel that things will get back to normal. I feel the same. I don't think we're quite there. But of course, I am enjoying seeing people. That's been a lovely feature of the half term, is seeing friends, even hugging, dare I say, meeting up with groups of people. Yesterday, I was together with my wife's kind of family side, and there were more people in the room together than there have been in a long, long, long time. And I'd be lying if I didn't say it wasn't, hold on, got to get my negatives right. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't lovely. There you go. There's a bit of correct use of negatives. I almost botched it, as I do many things, and regular listeners will know. Yes, indeed. Right. What I haven't mentioned yet is that this week's episode with me, Gray and Column on the Sunday Brunch, is a special gaming themed episode. All to do. The reason we have a gaming themed episode was, one, because I'm a massive geek, and any excuse to bring in games into this radio show, I will embrace with both arms. However, this week coming up is a very, very exciting week in the gaming community. Anybody know why? Are there any fellow geeks in the room who want to jump on it? I'll give you a sticker if you want to jump on the reason why this week is so exciting in the gaming community. I'm hyped. I got to say, I've got to wait a few days still, but there's an exciting event coming up. Anybody know? Event happening in Los Angeles. It happens every year. No idea. It's E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, or I guess that's exposition, right? Electronic Entertainment Expo is known as E3. It's an event, a kind of convention that happens every year in Los Angeles. This year, it's not in person. It's not quite the same as it usually is. It's been COVIDed, as many things have been. But E3 is still going ahead. There are still announcements. There's still, all the developers are hosting special events and revealing their big tech. And it's an exciting time to be a gamer. In the next week, we can expect surprises, and we can expect dates for things we've been looking forward to. We can expect free stuff that we don't usually get. It's very, very excited. Tim is looking forward to a Battlefield reveal. Yes, I haven't heard much about Battlefield in a while. So that would be nice to have some news on. There's all the franchises that we love to follow. We've all got our eyes on those franchises, and we're looking to see which ones are gonna. It's a bit like Christmas for gamers. Honestly, for me, it's genuinely Christmas. So my first apology was about being on the second COVID jab, and I was going to be I might be a bit knackered. I might not be quite as on form as I usually am. My second apology is to any non-gamer listeners, that it is going to be a very kind of gaming heavy episode. If you're not a geek, you have my permission to leave right now. Or perhaps you're a little bit curious about the world of geekery and you want to listen in to see what's going on in the gaming world. Or maybe you want to, seem cool with your kids in class, and you can drop a reference to, if you're working with younger kids, probably not best not to reference Battlefield, as Tim said. because that's a bit more of a grown-up game. But whatever. It's just a bit of fun. This week it is a gaming-themed episode, so apologies if you're not into gaming. Woody says, I'm not a gamer, but my child is, so I'm being educated now. Well, that's the name of the job, isn't it? We're all in education. So yeah, feel free to sit back and look forward to E3 with the rest of us as we look forward to the week ahead. Lots and lots of exciting things coming up. There's always lots of speculation around E3. And so anyway, I thought I'd bring in E3 and my excitement to E3. I want to bring a teacher's edge to the E3 discussion and talk about gaming in teaching, gaming in the classroom, and see what your thoughts are on that. See what are the big no-nos, what are the yeses, what's the future, what's the past of gaming in teaching. All things that there's so much to discuss. We could probably do a few weeks on it, and arguably next weekend E3 is still going on, so I could, if the hour and a half runs out, I may still extend us into next week. But E3, yes, that's the reason I'm bringing in gaming. But I'm not going to be talking loads about E3 today. I just want to introduce it and give a little tip of the hat to E3, and even a little bit of a shout out for if anybody wants to say what they're looking forward to or predictions. Tim has said he's predicting a Battlefield reveal. I haven't felt that in the water, I have to say. We'll see if Battlefield will come out. I'm looking more towards Nintendo and Sony, and I'm wondering whether, there's a lot of things that have been mentioned and I just don't know if they're really going to happen. So we'll see. But like I said, I don't want to spend too much talking about those things specifically, about E3 specifically, but more about gaming in teaching. That's the theme of the day. So that's what's on the table today. And I want you to start thinking about and kind of almost self-analyzing your views on gaming in class. If a child references gaming in your classroom, do you have preconceived ideas? Do you have a kind of a roll of the eyes? Do you sometimes go, oh, another gamer in class? And I get it if you do. And I am going to represent that viewpoint as we go through the show, because I'm not going to come in here. I'm not naive, and I'm not going to come in and kind of say gaming is perfect and every child should be gaming all the time, and that's totally fine. Of course, there are many instances where gaming doesn't contribute to a healthy lifestyle. But in the same sense, I would argue there's many things can not contribute to a healthy lifestyle if they're not done in the right way. And if we're not educated on them, or we're not introduced to them in the right way, then many things can be a problem for young people. Gaming is no exception. So that's something I want to think about is how we respond to gamers in the class when we find out we have a game in the class. Do we have an internal roll of the eyes or an external roll of the eyes? Maybe we sigh out loud, or maybe just in our head we'll sigh. What's our thoughts on gaming in the classroom? Just something to ask you about and to think about as we head into this show, because that's one of the big themes coming up. Some of the other themes we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about the future, about whether gaming will have more of a role of the future in class. On Twitter, I've had some amazing discussions with some people who've been talking about some of the kind of tools of gaming that work so well for young people and things that can lend to real positive things in young people. And some of those tools that could make their way into the classroom if implemented in the right way, which, certain skills like resilience, can really come from gaming. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Having more than one life, right, to try at things, and not having, like last week we spoke about perfection and not needing to be perfect all the time. The same, I think that is promoted in gaming, that you try something, you might fail, and then you have another go, and you might fail again, and you have another go, and you learn a little bit more as you go. And there's kind of the background of that process is very much a classroom process, or I would argue it should be, even if it isn't. But that kind of trial and error approach is certainly a big part of gaming. So resilience, trial and error, strategy, teamwork, all things that can come into different aspects of video gaming, and whether these might work their way more directly into the classroom in a video gaming guise, whether we might have video games as a classroom resource in future. I kind of hope we do, and I think we should. I think if the world was as modern and as developed as it should be, I think we would have games as a part of the classroom, not just as a wet play resource, neither. But that's what I kind of wanted to talk about. Even the leveling up system was mentioned in my discussions over the week. Leveling up, gaining XP through completing activities. It kind of sounds awesome to me. Sounds like something that could make for a really great classroom dynamic. If, as people go through, you award them points as you might usually, right? For a good piece of work, say in my school, we give planet points. Other schools might give house points, whatever. But imagine if they contributed to like an XP system, and you could achieve different levels, and maybe certain children might be motivated to get those levels, and then they could get certain stickers, trophies, awards, related to what they unlock in a certain sense. And of course, they would be unlocking their own skills as they go, which is pretty cool as well. Just a thought of gaming in the class, something to throw out there. We'll come back to that later. Other things I thought I might get to in the last half hour, I want to speak about your gaming habits as a teacher. So not so much gaming in the classroom, that's the first end of the discussion. But the back end of the discussion is our lifestyles as gamers personally. You know that on the Sunday brunch, I like to talk about educators rather than educating. And so the last half of the show, or last kind of third of the show, I want to speak about that and how we balance our lives. Do we balance our lives? Do you find you don't get to game very much anymore? Do you feel that teaching is to blame for that? Or have you managed to balance your life pretty well? Do you have certain slots where you do? Maybe it's a seasonal thing. Maybe in summer, you catch up a lot on games that you missed out on. And then through the year, it's a necessary kind of loss to do well in the job. You don't get to game as much. I wonder what our lifestyles are like in this world of gamer teachers. There are many of us. Are there many of us? Am I in a small breed? I think in a growing breed, I would say. Breed's not the right word. I'm in a growing community of teacher gamers, I think. But I have to say, in my own workplace, I think I'm alone. I have a lot of fellow teachers, partners who game, but not fellow teachers in my immediate vicinity who game, which is a bit of a shame. And interestingly, that does play a bit into gender stereotypes, which we might go down the direction of today as well. In that a lot of the male halves of couples that I know are gamers, and female halves less so. Not always. My own wife and some of her friends are pretty big gamers, and they're pretty good gamers too. But that sexism in gaming is still pretty prevalent, and there's a big discussion to get into there about why that is and the problems in the gaming community right now that stem from sexism. Games that are trying to challenge sexism and challenge those expectations, some are managing it better than others. So lots and lots of different bits to pick apart today. I would really like to get into the sexism discussion in gaming, but you let me know as well. You let me know where you have some interest, what you think is going well in the world of gaming. Do you balance your life as a gamer? Do you find there is lots of sexism in gaming? Have you seen that manifest in your classes? Do you have young boys assuming certain things on young girls based on gaming stereotypes, or perhaps lots of the boys get together and discuss games and they don't kind of welcome girls to join in the discussion as well? Maybe you're doing something to challenge that. I'm interested in what the world of teaching is like for gamers. I can tell you my experiences, but I'd love to hear yours as well as the show goes on. We're heading up to past, and actually, I'm going to play the first round of news a little bit early today because, funnily enough, the wonderful Tom Hopkinsberg, as I can't help but attach onto his name, has in fact included a gaming news story today. So I'm going to play the news. I want you to have a little listen. Let me know what you think about the gaming news story, and I'll, of course, let you know my thoughts immediately after this Teachers Talk Radio news. This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News with Tom Hopkinsberg.
This is Tom Hopkinsberg with your weekend Teachers Talk Radio News. The Institute of Fiscal Studies has warned that measures to help children catch up on lost learning could arrive too late. IFS researchers stated that if new spending is only announced in the autumn, the actual measures could be delayed well into 2022, potentially too late to effectively make up for lost learning. The IFS has also warned that the government's catch-up fund equates to £100 per pupil per year, well below the £1,600 per pupil being spent in the United States. The warning follows the resignation of Education Recovery Commissioner Sir Kevin Collins, who condemned the £1.4 billion recovery fund for children as far short of what is needed. Public Health England data shows that the Delta COVID-19 variant has affected around 1 in 250 schools. Also known as the Indian variant, the Delta variant has been linked to 97 confirmed COVID-19 outbreaks in primary and secondary schools in the last 4 weeks. Professor Christina Pargle from University College London said that the rise of the Delta variant meant that the government needs to get serious about reducing cases in schools. The Delta variant is more likely to lead to hospitalizations than the Alpha variant first detected in Kent, although the second vaccine dose is likely to help protect against Delta. A pioneering business in Hartlepool has been set up to help prevent gaming addiction in children. Jack's story aims to raise awareness about the dangers of gaming and provide help to youngsters suffering from gaming addiction. Funded by the National Lottery, the business is run by former Hartlepool teacher David Bradley and occupational therapist Charlotte Bell. Mr. Bradley told the Hartlepool Mail that, "We are quite pro-gaming because it's amazing. It's all about the dangers of the unsafe side of it." Teachers Talk Radio is looking for a new weekend newsreader. Email teacherstalkradio@gmail.com for more information. That was your weekend education news with Tom Hopkins Burke.
So, gaming addiction, that's an interesting one, isn't it, in that news story? Gaming addiction being addressed by a place in Hartlepool. It's been set up to deal with gaming addiction. I'm not sold on it, to be honest. It strikes me as very old school thinking of gaming, to look at gaming, first of all, as the problem rather than why the addiction has come about and how a young person has become addicted to video games and is allowed to be addicted to video games, and put however much time into it. Surely there's bigger problems there than the physical video game itself. Also, the justification at the end, we like gaming because it's amazing, doesn't strike me as someone who really has a lot to say about gaming and maybe really fights the corner of gaming just to say it's amazing, rather than it gives us this skill and that skill and it promotes this, and if it's done well, we can achieve this. And you could be very specific about the positives of gaming rather than just saying it's amazing, but children are addicted, and so let's highlight the dangers of gaming. It's an interesting one, but that news story certainly stands out to me a little bit, as it seems to me indicative of the problems and some of the old school issues around gaming, which I hope we're moving past, but we'll see. Let's see a few comments here. Sobia, wonderful co-host, you may have heard her show this morning. She says, I love gaming, but this year has been hard with workload. I did buy the new Google Stadia, though. That's cool. Yeah, it has been hard with the workload. I second that, actually. I usually manage to find, even with my little man, I usually find a fair bit of time to play video games, but lately it's gotten less and less. And I'm looking to rebalance that myself and figure out why that is. But it has been hard this year. Hopefully we'll feel some normality return, and the summer is on the horizon, so we can catch up with any games we've missed out on there following E3 and its amazing announcements sure to be coming in the next week. Tim says, I engage with the conversations about gaming to a certain degree. Nice to get some common ground outside of lessons. Yes, so that's on the topic of when gaming is brought up. How do we deal with it as teachers? Do we shut down conversations with about gaming? Do we like to promote it in class? Do we sit on a fence when it comes to gaming and more so see what the kids bring to us? It's an interesting area of discussion, and I'd love to know how different people engage with conversations around gaming in class, because I'm one who I like to open the door to it. I certainly early on in the year, not deliberately, but just because it's a natural point of conversation with me, whoever I speak to, it's going to come up. And I also like that in the classroom, kids might think, oh, that's something I don't expect from a teacher. And therefore, maybe they'll open up that side of themselves a little bit more. Maybe I'll get to know them a bit better as a real person because I can engage with one of their actual hobbies. I also like to use my gaming ways to promote more positive gaming experiences. So I quite vocally take down Fortnite, for example, whenever I can. Fortnite is a really, really famous video game that's blown up in the last kind of 5 years. And it was really, really popular. Maybe now so it's not so much. There's been some other games that have become more popular since. But there was a time when it was massive. And I would like to get into the conversation about video games with kids. And then when I'd go, oh, what do you play? And they say Fortnite. And I'd be like, rubbish. Of all the video games in the world, why not play this game? Why not play that one? And not in a really teachery way, but in a way that's just to say, I genuinely think it is a rubbish game. I really think of all the games I've played in my life, it doesn't offer very much. I know it's very addictive for kids, and I know it overloads their senses. And I think that's why it gets this intense playability out of young people. And so I try and use my gamingness as a teacher to kind of course younger people in the right direction. Yeah, funnily, Tim has just jumped in. He says it's Apex Legends, which is exactly what it is in my class at the moment. Apex Legends is like the new Fortnite. And before that, there was a little period of it being Among Us. which was like it seemed like a bit of a Guess Who kind of game where someone would be suspect and you'd try to figure out who the person was in a group. It was a good social game, and actually Among Us, I must say, seemed to break certain gender walls. I noticed boys and girls were into Among Us across all kinds of different year groups, rather than with many of the games, Fortnite and Apex Legends, it seems to be much more male centric. So props to Among Us there. Whatever happened there in that game's development, it seemed to be a little bit more healthy and socially enjoyable for kids, rather than just the intense shoot 'em up kind of addictive experiences that some of the other games that catch on with young people are. But there we go. That's my little take on talking to young people about gaming. I try and use it to kind of in a genuine sense drive them towards better quality games, and have a real discussion with them. I've played Fortnite a bit, so I can talk to them, say, oh, what about this and what about that, and and I can, when I'm criticizing Fortnite, it's real criticism that they know is related to the game. It's not me just saying it's rubbish. I can talk specifically about certain functions and systems in the game that I don't like very much, and I think it's just kind of milks the best out of a system, rather than really having a good experience for the user. So these conversations are the kind of conversations I might have in my year 6 class with fellow gamers. But maybe you think gaming should not be mentioned in class. Maybe you think it's not a healthy habit in general, and it should be left for home time. Maybe you might think it's on a par with talking about kind of bad habits in class, like, I don't know, like gambling or something like that. I'd love to hear from you. If you are on the other side of it, I'd love to have a debate with somebody who thinks there's a good argument against gaming in the classroom. Please do call in. That's what it's all about here on Teachers Talk Radio. This is not, the Sunday pastor's service of me telling you how to think. This is me saying, this is my opinion. Please challenge at will, challenge freely, if you wish. Lovely to have loads of people coming into the room as we go through. We are talking gaming, by the way. We're on a special E3 themed episode this week, because in Los Angeles at the end of this week, it's E3. That's the Electronic Entertainment Expo. And that's where loads and loads of gaming announcements are made. Actually, the exposition is actually far more than gaming. It's technology in general. So, Apple might be revealing their new phones, and there'll be new iPads and, VR technology. But personally, and for many people in the modern world, it's an event for gamers, and it's something where you look forward to announcements and reveals and exciting things to come from the world of video gaming. So that's why this week we're talking video gaming on the Sunday Brunch on Teachers Talk Radio with me, Graham Columb. Let's have a little look. Mal says, I was internally judgmental when I heard kids talking about it, but now I have kids, I'm no longer judgmental. Well, that's quite an interesting insight about the change. I'm firstly really appreciate you saying about being internally judgmental, because I think there's a lot of that. Dare I say, when I started teaching, even though I've been a massive gamer since I was really young, since before I can remember, one of my first memories is buying Mario 3 on the NES. But weirdly, when I became a teacher, I instinctively, if kids would talk about, before I was confident, before I kind of established myself as a teacher, I kind of instinctively would criticize as well, or kind of be like, oh, there's better things to be doing, you should be reading, or whatever, and it's weird, isn't it? I think teaching is behind in that sense. I think there's a lot of that still hanging around, a lot of negative judgments on video games, and I hear it a lot in classrooms and in staff meetings, where generally games are mentioned and it's generally seen as a bit of a negative. But but I try and course that conversation towards actually that if children often do game in an unhealthy way, and often it doesn't contribute well to their life choices, but it's a symptom, isn't it? If the kid games too much, if they're addicted to a certain video game, it's a symptom of something bigger in their situation. I can certainly say of the kids who I know who are unhealthily gamers, right, ones who game too much and maybe don't engage with things in school, their biggest problem is not gaming. In every example I can think of, you've got tricky home situations, kids clearly kind of pacifying themselves in a way by taking themselves away in video gaming for a long while, not engaging with maybe other aspects of their lives for whatever reason, and often clearly justifiable reasons from a kid's point of view. And I think it requires an adult, a teacher, a parent, to be the bigger person and engage with that child and try and figure out the root of the problem. But it's all too easy, isn't it, to blame the games and say, oh, that's the bad thing. Let's not worry about why the kid is obsessed with it, or why the kid isn't going out, or why the kid's not socializing very well. Let's just blame the game, because it's probably that game's fault. I would hope that at this point in our lives, we can all say that we know people who game a lot who aren't unhealthy, and people who game a lot who make perfectly well balanced choices in their life, and therefore kind of see the argument that it's not really the game that's the problem, it's perhaps the things behind the gaming addictions and the reasons behind why they choose to go to gaming so often that can be the problem. Woody says, I always talk about the healthy amount of gaming, and that's the thing, isn't it? You need to have that conversation. You need to set that standard in that, yes, we like to game. Yes, I see the merit in gaming, but like with anything, and I really do mean it, to compare it to any other form of media or any other type of hobby, there's a healthy amount and there's not a healthy amount. You could collect stamps to an unhealthy degree, and I'm sure many, many, many years ago, people did obsess over, whatever random hobby to the same way that people might obsess over gaming. But I wonder whether collecting stamps will be blamed by the same way that gaming is. Who knows? Mal says, yes, I agree. Unhealthy gamers, parents ignore them. Xbox used as babysitter. It's a stereotype, but I do see that a lot in my year 6 class. Most years there's at least 1 or 2 kids who clearly, like, there's a lot of gamers, but 1 or 2 who are unhealthy, and there's always reasons behind that. It's always not hard to see where the problems come from. So something to think about there, I think, something to reflect on as teachers and the way we see gaming maybe. But I myself am open to, perhaps there are dangers in gaming that I'm not appreciating. Let's talk about some of the negatives that are seen, because I knew this was going to be a big point of discussion on today's show about the negatives. So I do want to represent that side a little bit more. The thing is, as an adult, we're always going to be better at assessing our choices and deciding how much to do something, how much not to do something, or even if we're not making very wise choices, at least we're responsible for them. But with young people, there's an idea, the problem is that they're more susceptible to the negatives, aren't they? And so there's other things that come into it. If you game too much, maybe laziness will creep in. Maybe you'll be distracted easily because some games are very quick on the senses and very intense on the senses, and then it kind of normalizes that high intense level of engagement, and anything less than that they're going to switch off a little bit. So there's that argument that could be against gaming. Short attention spans, addictiveness, right? Some games are clearly built around addictive factors, and that's what I would often discuss with my year 6s when I'd say Fortnite is no good. I'd say, it's just based on addictive qualities. You only will be better at the game if you put however many 100 hours into it. It's not actually that you're improving in skill. And in this sense, I try and kind of, low-key jab at that game that I don't think is a very healthy choice of game, because it is intense on the senses. It might shorten attention spans. It might lead to addictive behaviors and things like that. It keeps kids indoors. Often gaming keeps kids indoors. However, there will always be exceptions to that. You could talk about Pokemon Go actually encouraging people to get out while being involved with video game franchise, going out and about, discovering their local area. I thought that was great when Pokemon Go took over and everybody was out for that one summer. I think it was 2016. Everybody was out catching Pokemon and all in the park, and you see them all with their phones out walking around. I actually walked around my local area a lot more at that time playing that game. So it's funny to see when it's implemented in the right way, gaming can do some great things. So there we go. The thing is, with healthy gaming and unhealthy gaming, I would bring it down to the idea of, so think about that child in your class who's an unhealthy gamer, the one who plays too much, the one, if you have a child in your class who is not doing too well in their gaming habits, and you think, oh, I wish they wouldn't play on their games so late, it's not doing them well for their schoolwork. Let's imagine removing the video game from their life, removing all video games from the existence of the universe. Are all their problems solved? I would ask you. Does removing games sort the problems for that child? Are they now a healthy, well-balanced, cheerful child, and was the only negative in their life the video games they're playing? Or, as I was trying to argue earlier, do you think it's more a symptom of their situation? Do you think it's more that there's more going on beneath the surface to be picked apart? Something to think about. Anyway, let's have a little refresher, a little reminder of where we're at, what you listen to, what on earth is going on. Live from London, this is the Sunday Brunch with Graham Columb on Teachers Talk Radio. Yes, you're listening to the Sunday Brunch with me, Graham Columb, on the wonderful radio station Teachers Talk Radio. Today we're talking gaming, in honor of this year's E3 show. We're talking about how gaming might be a positive in class. We've been talking about how it might be a negative. We'll be thinking about whether you get to game much as a teacher. Do you balance your life? Let's talk video games. We are live from London. This is the Sunday Brunch with Graham Columb on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/LSW/TT Radio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio. I did it. I said we are, and then the thing said live. Did it. All right. So Tom is in the comments. He says, I love that little Graham caption or Grahamception bit at the end. We are, and then it goes into live. I've been meaning to do that for so long. Loved it. Maybe now that I've done it once, I might remain aware of saying we are before the voiceover bit says live. Yes, good times. It's a good day. If I've managed to remember that, it's a good day. So yes, we are talking about, we're celebrating E3 really is what we're doing. We're celebrating the Electronic Entertainment Exposition in LA this week, where lots of gamer stuff gets revealed. In case is there any people in the room, I wonder, who are hardcore fellow geeks? Back in 2004, E3 is when it got on my radar. E3 back in 2004, when they revealed the new Legend of Zelda game. At the time, they didn't have a title; they just called it Legend of Zelda. But the reveal just caused such crazy hype. Like in the room, people were screaming. They were screaming and yelling when it was revealed. Grown men were crying, famously. You know, that's how it's remembered, the 2004 Zelda reveal at E3. Grown men wailing because of the reveal of the Legend of Zelda game. And since then, for me, that's when it became like an important event. And I was like, wow, the kind of the magic of this event. And still now, I watched the clip this morning. I was going to play it, but it was all a bit fuzzy in the sound. It wasn't very satisfying to play over the radio. But it still gave me tingles when I watched it, which is, you know, pretty magical. Some of the events for us geeks, when we look forward to surprises and we look forward to big reveals at this event, that was one. So if you get a moment, I recommend you Google 2004 Twilight Princess reveal or E3 Zelda reveal, and you'll see a video of a really cool looking game getting revealed, and nobody knew it was coming. Nobody knew anything about it. And it was revealed in 2004 E3, and just everyone lost their minds, me included. I was like, just obsessed by it. I was young at the time. I was about 14 or something. Or no, I was a little bit older when I was 16. Maybe older than that, 18. I was 18. And I still was losing my mind over this game being revealed. So that's what it's all about. That's peak E3, is when the big reveal, you know, Final Fantasy VII Remake gets revealed. Boom, you know, people lose their minds. Or games people thought had been forgotten about, and then they get revealed at E3 and they're going to be released. Wow, big reveal. Half-Life 3, will it come out? Skate 4, will it ever be made? Who knows? You probably don't care if you listen to Teachers Talk Radio, but I'm representing for the geeks today. I'm representing for the geeks. And I'm glad if you're in here listening and you are a fellow geek, welcome. You couldn't be in better hands. Also, of course, this is not just a live podcast on Sunday morning. It's also replayable on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and on Podbean and in all kinds of places. We're on YouTube now and everything. So yes, you can listen to this in lots of ways. And perhaps you're listening after Sunday or in the later part of Sunday. You are also being represented here in the world of geekery in teaching. There's not many of us geeky teachers, but we are there in the world. And if you are excited about E3, as I am, then check in, stick the kettle on, sit back, and let's talk gaming in teaching with me, Graham Columb. I'm your host. If you want to follow me, I'm at Graham Column VO on Twitter, and you're listening to Teachers Talk Radio, which is at TT Radio 2021 on Twitter. Yes, it is at TT Radio 2021 on Twitter. So that's where you are right now. And we talk all things teaching. This show in particular, we are talking about gaming in teaching. So what's your experience of games in class? We've been talking about the positives and, well, we talked about the negatives largely. We've kind of been addressing the elephant in the room, which is gaming right or wrong in class? Should it be ruled out? Should it be an unmentionable? Or should it be embraced? Should we be engaging with it? One, so that kids might engage with us a little bit more, might build a little bit of trust, maybe a bit of a stronger foundational relationship if you relate to them a little bit. Secondly, just engaging with their world. I remember on my teacher training, a bit of a weird one. Somebody was saying that we should kind of watch lots of kids' TV shows and read lots of kids' books to kind of engage with our classes. Now, I didn't do that, but I wonder if maybe this gaming is in some way my way of doing that. But I got to say, it's not deliberate. Like when I heard that advice about watching kids' TV shows, I felt very like, I was very much like, no, I'm not going to, in my free time, I'm not going to sit and watch Dougie and, Bing or whatever, just for the sake of having kind of inane conversations in the classroom. I don't need to kind of be liked that much as a teacher. But funnily, as a gamer, that kind of has become a natural part of conversation. I haven't had to try to play games that kids will play. I am just a big Nintendo gamer, for example. So a lot of the younger people's games, I just do play anyway. And so maybe it ticks the same box. But I would still not recommend. I wouldn't recommend people do it if they don't naturally do it. I think it's very weird and false. And what's the word? Kind of like, oh, love me. Do you know what I mean? Like, you do you. You know what I mean? You do you. We're all good. We'll crack on. Kids will surely respect just people being themselves, whatever that is. Anyway, positives in gaming. All right, so we're moving into this next part of the show. I want to talk about positives in gaming and how we can bring those into the classroom. Because now, a couple of things, some have been brought up to me on Twitter over the week, and there's such excellent points about kind of fundamentals of gaming that really are fundamentals of teaching. And that with that crossover, surely something can be made of it. Surely there's something to be done where good quality video games bring the same qualities out of kids that we want to see from them in the classroom. Let's talk about what some of those are. Resilience is the easiest one for me to mention because I personally really feel that I developed my resilience from playing video games. Honestly, like I was not very resilient as a young person. I perhaps I maybe be a bit like sexist or old-fashioned to say I was a bit of a mummy's boy when I was younger, but I don't know, I can't think of a better term. I was very soft, and if things didn't go my way, I probably was not a very good loser when I was younger. But as I got into video games as I got older, so I started on video games when I was very, very young, just because I was the youngest in a big family. So my older siblings were playing video games, and I'd watch and I'd play a little bit. And then as I got older, I'd get more into kind of really caring about the games and putting lots of energy into them and putting lots of time into them. And but you got to the point where if I wasn't doing something well, I'd try it again. There'd be puzzle games, right? Legend of Zelda is my favorite video game series of all time. And it's a puzzle game mainly. It's action and puzzles. But a lot of it, they can get really challenging puzzles. And you try them and you can't figure out. And you try it again and you can't figure out. And you fail and you try again. And eventually, when you crack it, there's few things as satisfying as when you crack that moment in a game and you beat that boss or you solve that puzzle and you're right and you got it. And that then gave me that zest for kind of pushing through barriers. And highlighted to me, after years of school, it really made it meaningful to me, the pursuit of learning and pushing through barriers. That came to me from video games. Another weirdly kind of specific skill I said on Chris Val's show a little while ago is using a compass, north, south, east, west, and orienting myself. Hugely gained from Resident Evil games, where you use a map, you have a bird's eye view of a mansion or whatever where the game is set, and you have to go around and visit certain rooms. And if there's a whole way of doing it efficiently and doing it as fast as you can. And if I hadn't played Resident Evil, I probably would not be as very well oriented as I am now. My left and right, I used to not know my left and right, and that was a big thing when I was growing up. I really didn't. When people hold their hands out and they say the tick is right and the L is left, for some reason, that still didn't work for me. I saw them both as ticks, and I'd be like, I don't get it. I'm looking at them. How do I know which one's supposed to be the left tick and which one's the right tick? Weirdly, I know that sounds silly that I couldn't tell which one's the tick, because now I know that rule better. It's very obvious which one's the tick and which one's the L. But for some reason, I was really bad at orienting myself when I was younger. But then as I got into Resident Evil and I really cared about getting around this mansion and finding my way around in the right way, I got really good at figuring out my north, south, east, west. Efficient journeys and going through certain rooms only a certain number of times. It's a weird thing, but skills can come out of video games. Not that every classroom should be using Resident Evil, of course. That would be a very bad step. But there are skills to come from it. There's a lot more to say on that, but let me just check in with the comments here. Thank you, Tim, for sharing the show. I hope you're enjoying listening. Mal says, if kids were into certain books, I'd read them. The worst one was the Twilight series. Awful series of books. Oh, boy, Mal, don't get me started on Twilight. I'll tell you. But it was good to talk to girls about self-esteem, self-respect. Exactly. That's so funny that you said that, Mal. I'm so glad that you brought that up in relation to the Twilight books, because I have currently kids in my class who are into the Twilight books. They were into them in a big way. And I make a thing the same way when I say to kids, Fortnite is rubbish. I made a thing of saying to the kids that Twilight was rubbish. And I'd say, look at Edward Cullen, like he's not treating them well. He's not doing, he's not being nice to those people. And why didn't he just be honest to her? But instead he's doing all this, manipulating emotions and self-esteem, self-respect. You mentioned, Mal, it absolutely is the theme. It's not a healthy relationship. But I still think that's a good, even though they love the books and they might think it's a lovely magical relationship, it's nice to have a catalyst to bring up that conversation about what is a healthy relationship. What is self-respect? Is that a balanced relationship? Does he love her as much as she loves him? These are good things that come from pop culture that could very easily be written off. She always wants to change herself for him. Absolutely. And even when he kind of runs off in one of the books and then she's basically depressed for months on end, eventually catches up to him and he's like, oh, I had to do it because I loved you or something. And it was like, no, you don't do that to someone. He could have just been honest with her. And you know what? We need another show on the she cries for 300 pages. Is that literal, Mal? Does she actually cry for 300 pages of the book? I believe that. They're also, I haven't read them all. My wife was a big fan of them when she was younger. But from what I know, I don't think they're very well written books neither. I don't think you get not really much depth or kind of hidden meanings to pull out of them. Seriously, Mal says she does cry for 300 pages in book 2. Yes, I remember them in films because my wife was into the books. And then as I watched the films with her, when we were together, the films were coming out. And then I was kind of criticizing heavily on the relationship and on Edward Cullen. And so we kind of had our journey of discovery of the characteristics of Twilight books together there. But yeah, the thing there, though, Mal, you brought up originally, if kids are into a certain book, you'll read it. So did you read Twilight because kids were into it, or did you read it because of the general social buzz around it, and then it happened to be it fed into kids as well? I'd be interested, because the same way with gaming or TV shows and things, I don't think it's kind of fair to put on to teachers, oh, you should do this because kids are interested, or you should do that. I think there will be people who watch the same shows as kids because maybe they've kids at the same age, and those teachers can have that little benefit of having that knowledge the same way I might have the little benefit of having the gaming knowledge. But I'd never say to other teachers, you should be gaming so that you're on the same page as these kids. Do you know what I mean? And books, the thing is, right, so what we're getting into here, there's a little bit of a books versus gaming thing coming up, and this is why I think that gaming is always under a bit of a cloud in teaching. I think it's always seen as like reading is better and kind of more academic, and therefore we don't want kids on games, we want them on books. And I think that's why there's always this kind of contrast between, gaming is always on the peripheral on the class, it's not quite embraced. Let me just see, some comments are coming in. So Mal read the Twilight books because the kids were into it. I guess it surprises me a little bit, but just like I say, I would find it hard to do long-winded things like reading a massive book or a series of books in that case. Because the kids are into it. But then again, I guess if it works, it works. I'm always years behind fashion and trends. That surprises me, so be it. You seem like a very fashionable individual. But you know what? Maybe you just create your own fashion. Or maybe if you're years behind, maybe while you're kind of running the 90s wave right now, and it's come back, right? So other kids are on the retro wave, and you're just riding the original 90s fashion wave. And they just marry up, who knows? I've seen some kids with middle partings lately, which was a bit of a shocker. They seem to be making it back in. Oh, I have a call from Mal coming into the room. Mal, can you hear me? Oh, hello. Hello. I believe I've welcomed you into the room, Mal. Are you there? Oh, it's a fake. It was a fake call. Mal has pranked me. I know what these fellow hosts are like. Classic butt dial. Tom says butt dial. That is the second time Mal has fake called in. I thought she was going to come in strong on the Twilight call. She was just going to be like, forget this gaming show, we need to talk Edward Cullen, which is fine. If you want to do that, Mal, call in. But yes, indeed. Let me have a little look. There's all kind of things flying in. We love them. We love Mal's butt calls. Yes, of course we do. Of course we do. Right. I'm going to take a moment as I recalibrate myself. We're coming into the final 35 minutes of the show. We're going to have some news. We're going to have an ad. And then we are going to come back into talking gaming as a teacher, talk some different angles. We haven't talked much about the sexism in gaming yet. Maybe that's where we'll go next. Sexism in gaming. Mario saving a princess, or is he simply stalking a princess who's happily married to Bowser? Let's talk it later on after the news. This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News with Tom Hopkins-Burke.
This is Tom Hopkins-Burke with your weekend Teachers Talk Radio News. The Institute of Fiscal Studies has warned that measures to help children catch up on lost learning could arrive too late. IFS researchers stated that if new spending is only announced in the autumn, the actual measures could be delayed well into 2022, potentially too late to effectively make up for lost learning. The IFS has also warned that the government's catch-up fund equates to £100 per pupil per year, well below the £1,600 per pupil being spent in the United States. The warning follows the resignation of Education Recovery Commissioner Sir Kevin Collins, who condemned the £1.4 billion recovery fund for children as far short of what is needed. Public Health England data shows that the Delta COVID-19 variant has affected around 1 in 250 schools. Also known as the Indian variant, the Delta variant has been linked to 97 confirmed COVID-19 outbreaks in primary and secondary schools in the last 4 weeks. Professor Christina Pargle from University College London said that the rise of the Delta variant meant that the government needs to get serious about reducing cases in schools. The Delta variant is more likely to lead to hospitalisations than the Alpha variant first detected in Kent, although the second vaccine dose is likely to help protect against Delta. A pioneering business in Hartlepool has been set up to help prevent gaming addiction in children. Jack Story aims to raise awareness about the dangers of gaming and provide help to youngsters suffering from gaming addiction. Funded by the National Lottery, the business is run by former Hartlepool teacher David Bradley and occupational therapist Charlotte Bell. Mr. Bradley told the Hartlepool Mail that, "We are quite pro-gaming because it's amazing. It's all about the dangers of the unsafe side of it." Teachers Talk Radio is looking for a new weekend newsreader. Email teacherstalkradio@gmail.com for more information. That was your weekend education news with Tom Hopkins-Burke.
Introducing Amanda Davey. Amanda is one of the first specialist teacher assessors for dyscalculia in the UK and offers dyscalculia tutoring and bespoke training for schools. With 26 years of teaching and tutoring experience in the UK, Amanda offers specialist online tuition focused on building confidence and developing skills. Amanda also offers online and face-to-face training on dyscalculia for educators, informing practitioners as to how to identify children that may have dyscalculia and how to support them in class. Find out more about Amanda and what she can offer you at www.amanda-davy-dyscalculia.co.uk. Live from London, this is the Sunday Brunch with Graham Columb on Teachers Talk Radio. We are talking gaming today. If you are in the gaming community, you may well be looking forward to E3 this week. It's the big event. It's Christmas for gamers. So I'm talking gaming in teaching. Do you allow discussion of games in your class? Do you love talking games in class? Could games enhance our classes? Bring on the games. We are live from London. This is the Sunday Brunch with Graham Columb on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/LSW/TT Radio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio. For anybody who doesn't notice this transition, you might just think I'm saying we are, full stop. In which case, that's pretty profound in itself. So maybe that's going to be my new catchphrase. I'll just say, guys, we are, and then just move on. Who knows? Who knows? The future is unwritten, of course. Maybe we are will be my new TTR catchphrase. Who knows? Who knows? We are talking E3 today. We're talking gaming. As a teacher, how do you find gaming in the classroom? Do you find it's a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? I want to talk to you a little bit about sexism in gaming. Sexism has a pretty strong thread through gaming history, unfortunately. But of course, a lot of the foundational, some of the biggest games of our current world were all founded in sexist ideas, very, very old tropes, really fairy tale type of ideas that I guess whoever was making the video games at the time, I don't think it was a deliberately sexist thing. It was just a reflection of, well, we want a simple story to reflect, they were working with square pixels, so they couldn't exactly make things too complex, or perhaps they just didn't care to make stories complex because they were more busy. You'd have games being made by a team of 3 or 4 people, so there wouldn't always be a great deal of people in the room to develop storylines. They just keep it simple. But of course, most commonly, going way back to the first Super Mario games, we've got boy saves princess, right? We've got a damsel in distress, trapped by a giant monkey, no less. And that would be Donkey Kong. And Mario would then be there to save her, right? And his quest is always to save her. And then in the following Mario games, it would be get princess from the castle. And then he'd go in, the man would fight the male monster, and then there'd be the damsel in distress, or she wouldn't be in that castle. You'd have to go to the other castle and get her, of course. And so then from that, those kind of foundational steps in video gaming were very much woman is vulnerable and weak and seen to be protected, and the male comes in and does the heroing. And that then, as things have grown from there, it's become more and more deep rooted. We obviously have other problems as time goes on. For example, the early Tomb Raider games really focused, in one sense, they thought they were doing a lot for gaming because it was a female protagonist, and they're going, hey, we're getting a woman as the main character. That's great, isn't it? But then, of course, they what can I say? They rendered her rather from a slightly male. I'm trying to say this without being rude. She was designed with a very male mindset, right? So her bosoms were rather large, and weirdly seemed to grow as the games went on. So Tomb Raider 2 and Tomb Raider 3, it was like she was having plastic surgery between each of the games, and it wasn't good. It wasn't a step in the right direction. As much as I've seen the developers of Tomb Raider talking about how, first female protagonist, thinking it was a good thing. I'm like, guys, you knew what you were doing here. Like, this was not a progressive step. But anyway, over-sexualized. Thank you, Tim, is the phrase. I'm very bad at finding the phrases in the moment. So thank you, Tim, for stepping in when I need you there. Yes, she was very, very much over-sexualized. So not necessarily step in the right direction. And then I could obviously talk about loads and loads of games that follow similar tropes and massively over-sexualized female characters, or very dominant male muscular characters. Cover art of video games is often just big, strong males in the middle of the case with the title of the game, and that would be it, or 2 strong males with guns, and that would be it. There's always a few exceptions, but nowhere near enough. Fast forward to 2020/2021, and we do have some that really are working hard to turn these tropes on their heads. Enter The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2. Very much grown-up game, but the protagonist in the first game is there's a male and a young girl, but the young girl is very, very kind of cool, very tough, not sexualized at all, very real character. In fairness, does a lot to develop the male, but you still play primarily as a male, and the game is not about saving the female at all. If anything, it's about the female saving the male, and I'll let you play the game to discover that yourself. Highly recommend it, by the way. Probably one of my favorite games of all time. Favorite game series, Legend of Zelda. Favorite games, Last of Us and Last of Us Part 2. So the first one came out. That was all fine. It was very highly respected. People loved it. Yes, there was one of the characters was female, and she was an absolutely central character, and she wasn't a typical female. Also, like I said, there was the element of her kind of saving as things went on. And oh yeah, and she's a lesbian as well, which is kind of, again, quite progressive for games, because you don't often have other sexualities overtly represented, whereas you did in this game. There was spin-off downloadable content which clarified that she had a girlfriend previously, and So it did things which was trying to kind of push some boundaries in gaming, and there was no over sexualization or no overdoing the lesbianness or anything. It was just a natural part of her character. And then, but now here's the interesting thing: the sequel comes out very early on. Now, spoiler alert: the guy who was in the first game is not the main character in the second game. The second game, you play mainly as the girl, and she's way tougher on this when she's older. It's grittier. She goes through a lot of very tricky situations. Whatever, but she's a real tough, not your stereotype vulnerable female in any sense, and not an overly buff female or anything like that. She's just an awesome, very regular type of person who's real tough and a good role model, I would say, for people growing up at that age of around 18, 19, whatever, whenever you might play that game. But the reaction now, this is the interesting thing, the reaction in the gaming community to the male not being playable. Well, how do you think that reaction was? It was crazy. It was really negative. It's gotten massively trolled, and the troll culture also ties in somewhat to gaming. But the reaction to having a really strong female character who wasn't overly sexualized and not overly buff or masculine, or she was just a really great character. Her name's Ellie, in case anybody wants to look up these characters. Ellie and Joel, who are the two characters in The Last of Us. And anyway, but the reaction of the gaming community to a game with her as the main character, as opposed to the male, was really negative. It was really profoundly kind of toxic, and how can you do this? You've ruined this game. It's terrible. And clearly the gaming community were not up for it. They weren't ready for it. And that for me really broke my heart, because for me, like I said, it's one of my favorite games of all time. It was totally what's needed. Some people criticize the game for being too woke. I think it was just, just didn't do what every single other game does. Do you know what I mean? I didn't think it really put in your face any of these issues. Yes, they have other issues that come in the sequel. There's a character who's trans, for example, dealt with in a very sensible way, very mature way. Again, not overdone, not kind of caricatured or anything like that, but just an issue that goes along in a very interesting game world, in a very interesting game. But the response of the community was super negative. So there's that issue as well with gaming in the classroom. Is there this sexism that isn't yet dealt with? And actually the community of gamers, if we promote gaming with kids and we send them into the world of gaming, what are we sending them into? Because of course, a lot of gaming now is online. A lot of it is online with people who we might not know, and we might have them on speakerphones. We might hear the language people use on online games. We might, certain stereotypes, certain ideas that are unfortunately prevalent in the gaming world might then creep into younger people's ears if they're playing games in these same communities. So does that change things? Does that mean we're not quite there with gaming? Does that mean we shouldn't be embracing gaming as teachers? I don't think so. I think the answer to it really is about how we introduce gaming and how we promote gaming. And I think, like any form of media and anything at all in the classroom, I think, or not in the classroom, anything at all with young people, it needs to be introduced in the right way. We need to be mindful about how we show children these things. I think that parents should be checking games before they let the young people play on them, the same way you might check a movie before you let your young person watch it. I don't think there's anything new here with gaming, but I think the idea of kind of just letting a kid off on a console online and hoping it goes well, I think that's pretty irresponsible. I think to blame the game is, again, irresponsible, and we're not looking at ourselves there. I think actually if a child is getting negative ideas from games that they're playing from online forums, well, have they been educated in how to use those games? Is the parent aware that they've got those settings on and they can hear those people on? I think maybe we as adults need to share the responsibility. And if we can introduce games well and promote them in the right way, they can absolutely be an asset to young people. Like I've said already, and majorly an asset in my life growing up. But in the same thing, I was limited by the amount I played games. I wasn't just allowed to play them as much as I wanted. My parents were mindful of what I was playing. They might see me playing them sometimes. They'd sit there as I was playing them, so they would be aware of the things I was involved with. There was a social element to it with my family as well, in that all of my family played video games. So we'd all sit around and play games together. And that kind of maybe was a bit of a security blanket, to how much time we spent on them. It was a social experience, much to my wife's hate at the moment, is that whenever I'm playing a video game that I really like, I really want her to sit with me when I'm playing it. I want to share the experience. But she's not really as much of a gamer. She loves Resident Evil 4, but apart from that, and the latest Zelda game, but apart from those, she doesn't really like sitting there and watching me play. Whereas I grew up so used to my family sat around and we'd all watch each other play these video games. I'd be like, oh, come and sit and watch me play this. And she really couldn't think of anything worse than to sit and watch me play video games. So sorry, wife. Not a fun time for you, I know. And in fact, that reminds me, it's probably about time for. Oh, where is it? Oh no, my intro jingle is not here for the best segment of my show. You know what it's time for. Let me see. I don't know if it's even on here. All right, give me a moment. Give me a moment. Slight tech hiccup. We need to get in the one and only segment of my show that I like to do every week. Although I'm starting to run out now, I have to say. The segment of my show is where I share something bad in my life so you can feel better about your life. But I've currently lost the tune. I guess I can do it without the tune. It doesn't feel quite right though, to do it without tune. Oh, here it is. Here it is. All right. We're back on track, people. We're back on track. Don't panic. People who've tuned in just to listen to Graham and Shame, it's okay. It's here. We might need to wait a moment. Graham and Shame. Khalil knew it was coming. Tom knew it was coming. Any regular listeners know that it's time for Graham's Shame, the time of the show where I share something bad in my life so you can feel better about your life. Or if you've done the bad thing as well, then we can relate and understand we're not awful people. This is just life, people. This is just how it goes. So welcome to Graham's Shame. You listen to Graham Column on Teachers Talk Radio. And what is my shame this week? I think I'm going to continue on from my previous one. You might have heard in last week, I think it was, or it might be in the week before. I had a shame of a kind of duff proposal in Paris. And that was an unexpected shame. It wasn't really as shameful as most of my shames because I originally meant to talk about a different part of my holiday, which is this part. This is the original Graham shame from that holiday. So we were traveling around Europe on the trains. As I said before, we were interrailing. And we'd been round, at this point, we'd been to Paris, we'd been to Amsterdam, we'd been to Berlin, we'd been to Krakow. I think we've been to a couple of other places along the way. But in Krakow, we were feeling, no, it wasn't Krakow. We then went to Budapest. And then we were feeling really knackered. And we were kind of running out of money and stuff. And we were starting to think, right, we're probably getting to the end of this jaunt. And I said, as is often my nature, I'm not very frugal when it comes to money. I'm more of it, if I have money, I'll spend it because I just like to do things. And so I kind of spent a while persuading the wife, or it was wife to be at that point, the recently engaged partner, saying, look, let's blow the end of this trip and let's blow some money on a really nice beach holiday, right? Because all the other parts have been cities and trains, and it was all quite urban. It was urban. It was amazing, brilliant trip, brilliant memories. But I thought, it would be really cool if we flipped the whole style of this holiday on its head and finished up on a beach part of a holiday. So we thought, right, let's do it. I persuaded her. She was like, all right, Graham, I don't really want to spend loads, but if you want to do it, let's do it. So I looked up, there was a place in Croatia. It was an island called Bol or Brac. And I think it was Bol on the island of Brac. And anyway, we booked this place, and I looked at it on the hostel website place, and it was like a high-end hostel. In the pictures, it was lovely, really colourful, beach views, big rooms. There was a communal area, and even the private area of the room was lovely, private bathroom. And I was like, look, we're going to blow it all here and just finish on a real high note. And my wife was really reluctant. She was like, really? Why don't we just keep it safe and play it safe? I was like, no, let's do it. Trust me on this one. You always know it's going to go wrong when you say trust me on this one. So anyway, persuaded. She goes, all right, book it. So I booked this lovely hostel in Croatia by the coast on an island. It was a long journey. We're talking like more than 24 hours journey to this distant coast of Croatia, then to get a boat to the island, and then get to the hotel. So we get to the it's a pretty uncomfortable and sticky journey. There's a lot of delays on the way and waiting in random, real stuffy trains and random train stations. Eventually we get on the boat, we're heading to the island, pull into the island, knackered at this point, absolutely knackered, desperate to sit in our amazing room in this lovely hotel break. no, we were supposed to be picked up at the boat place, at the harbour, right? There was supposed to be someone to pick us up there. We get there, no one there. Looking around, bit unfortunate. Okay, all right. Well, the hotel's only up the hill, so let's get walking. So we're walking, and the hill goes higher and higher, and it's longer, and it's boiling. And it's one of those, when you're like, man, I'm looking really bad here. Like, I've booked this, and everything was supposed to be checked out, and it's not going well. Eventually, we come up upon this hotel, and you know what? We walk in, it does look pretty nice. It's pretty well kept. We see the colorful architecture and stuff that was advertised. We're thinking, this is it. This is the dream. Go up to the desk. All right, we've booked in for a room for this place. They said, oh, we were supposed to pick you up from the harbor. I said, yes, I know you weren't there, but it's okay. And they go, right, we got you here, but you're on the boat. And I was like, what? And no, we booked up the room, saw the pictures, said, you're on the boat. You're on the party boat. And that was it. That's the shame. A party boat? My wife's face when she heard that I booked us on the party boat. I was at the desk. I was like, I'm quite sure I didn't book the party boat because we don't want to book a party boat, okay? I don't want to sound miserable or sound old, but I'm not a party boat kind of guy, all right? I might have been when I was 18, 19, 20, even 21. I might have pushed myself onto a party boat, but at this point, I was like 23, 24. And honestly, the whole point was we were going there to relax. And yet here we are told that, and the way she's talking to me, she's like, you booked the party boat, mate. What was her name? She had a funny name as well. Crystal was her name. And so anyways, you can imagine after that, wife wasn't happy. She was actually really seasick on the boat, on the party boat. And we sat there with like young people who want to socialize, and they talk about getting shots and going to clubs. And we're like, really? This was the dream part of the holiday. This was supposed to be the amazing one. And on the party boat, the guy who owned the boat had this daughter who was like 6, right? But she was an absolute nightmare. And she would come up and she would pull my hair at one point, and the guy's just like, yes, very good. Oh, it was really bad. There was so much wrong with the party boat. And since then, I've famously, well, there's a lot of bad holidays I've booked, but that's probably the worst one, the party boat. And whenever I talk about booking a holiday now, my wife's like, don't forget the party boat. So that's it. That's my shame for this week, guys. Be very, very careful when booking on hostel websites, because it only said it once. It only said boat at one point, a small print on the website. Be careful booking your holidays, kids. Graham's shame. All right, so I'm just checking in with the comments here. We're heading towards the end of the show. We've got about 13 minutes, not even 12 minutes and 20 seconds. And Tom says, can I do my jingle live? It'll make people like me and Khalil very happy, maybe at the end of this shame. Oh, I see. So you want me to say Graham's shame live? It won't echo naturally, though. It will have a whole different effect if I just say Graham's shame in the room. There's no echo. I need like some kind of, I don't have anything on my mic that's going to make it go, whoa, like echo. So I don't know what to do for you guys. Tom says he wants to hear it too. Do you just want me to shout Graham's shame? It's not going to be very good. It's not going to be very good. Well, this is ridiculous. Right, here we go. I'll do it with the tune, right? Do it with the tune, but you can hear the echo as well. Graham's shame. Live. There you go. That didn't go as well, did it? It was better when I didn't do it live, I think. I can only see rectangles in the emojis, but I assume they're laughing faces or just like shameful faces. Who knows? There's another shame for next week. That time I did a live Graham shame and it just didn't sound as good. Anyway, good times. No shame, people are saying. All right, well, it's all feeling very positive in here. It's all feeling very positive. So I will ride off the positivity out of my boat shame. Rogers, do it again. What do you think I am, Tom Rogers? Don't say I'm not a monkey. Do it again. We still have 10 minutes. Should I just do it repeatedly for 10 minutes? You'll be lucky, mate. You'll be lucky. Listen, pipe down and let's carry on talking about games. 11 minutes. 33 times. You reckon it's 20 seconds for the jingle? Probably not a bad shout, actually, to be honest, Tom. Good maths. Tom Hopkins Burke, not only our newsreader, now resident mathematician in the house. So let's talk about, for the last 10 minutes, I haven't had much from you guys on this in terms of the discussion, and I'm not too surprised because I thought being a gamer teacher show might be a little bit niche. But if there are any personal thoughts on gaming as a teacher, whether you think it should or should not be shared, please do feel free to call in and share your thoughts. Do you think sexism is still a massive problem? I'm aware it is. My brother sent me a link to there's a documentary or kind of a documentary series about and one of the it touches on sexism in gaming. It definitely is a problem. Does that mean we shouldn't be doing it in talking about it in class? Should we be talking about the tropes of sexism in gaming and shining a light on them? Surely that there would be a place for that. But I wonder where we would teach that. Would that be a narrative kind of story writing lessons? Would it be a PSHE type of discussion? Even it could be like internet safety, computer safety, digital safety. Something to think about. But it's not something that should be ignored. And it's still to this day, there's massively over sexualized kind of females in gaming and over, what can I say, like the kind of image put on kind of male players as well, kind of buff males killing people without much thought about it. It's all rather unhealthy and not very good. There's a lot going against it, thankfully. I do think we're in a new era of gaming. There's a good quality of games coming out that challenge tropes and turn them on their head, but not enough. Mario is still very much saving Princess Peach from Bowser. So I think until Peach saves Mario, I think we have area to improve. Or maybe Peach just has her own game and it's not even to do with Mario. Maybe Mario has his own game where he's saving Luigi or something. Who knows? Anyway, watch E3 this week to see what the current state of gender roles are in video games, because we'll have a look there for how our current state is. That's the best way to see the immediate future of gaming will be on E3 this week. It starts on June 10th. It runs all the way. It kind of peaks on June 12th. That's where there'll be the big studios doing their things. Sony have sadly pulled out this year. There's no Sony in E3 this year, but you know what many companies do when they don't take part in E3, they still do loads of reveals and big announcements at the same time. So they cheekily just kind of ride off the hype of E3 to reveal their own things. But Nintendo are doing announcements. They're sure to have many surprises. Hopefully a new Zelda game on the way. Xbox have their announcements. Ubisoft will be making their announcements. Loads of developers, Bethesda, I'm trying to think of all the different studios, Naughty Dog, there'll be tons and tons of things coming out. So maybe a Last of Us remake, after I was going on about that storyline with the male and really positive female character in there as well. Great game. If you can play a video game, right? If you've never played a video game before and you want one that's really going to show you the merits of video gaming, get on The Last of Us. Brilliant game. Anyway, enough of me promoting, advertising random video game companies. How about you as a teacher then? Do you get to game very much? How is your gaming life balanced with your teacher life? It's not on Xbox, Tim. That's right. You need to get yourself on a PS4, which might be going cheap now that PS5 is out, or even a PS3 has The Last of Us on, Tim. So I recommend it highly, just to play the one game. It'll be worth it because it's so profoundly brilliant, in my humble opinion. But talk to me about gaming as a teacher. Do you manage to game much? Do you game at the weekends, in the evenings, or do you leave it pretty much and you binge through your half terms and summer, or do you only really get to it in your summer holidays? Maybe you manage to balance it all the way through. Maybe there are certain times where you peak and trough in games. Do you have a massive catalogue of games that you haven't played yet? That's my current state of affairs with gaming, is that I got a Nintendo Switch a little while ago, a couple of months ago, and there are a number of games that are still in their cellophane because I haven't got to playing them yet. There's a few that I've gotten really into, so I can't say I don't game. I've been playing a few, but I bought like 6 or 7 games, and I think 4 of them have not been touched since I bought them. So this is the life of a gamer teacher, I'm afraid. It is in my life. Anyway, it's not the life of every gamer teacher. I'm sure some people get lots of time out of them. Let's have a little look. Sobia says that's why Google Stadia is good. Stadia or Stadia? I don't know. Netflix for gaming. Well, I'm confused by that. Google Stadia is like their console, right? But I don't quite know what's special about it. Is it a VR console? You need to educate me on that one, Sobia. I don't know much about that at all. I only know the kind of the main 3 with some depth, and my knowledge goes way back on Xbox, Sony, PlayStations, and Nintendo. I kind of go back to my very, very early youth. We're talking 80s on those. Even when I was a baby, we had a console called a Dragon. And that was like back in the days of Amstrads and things like that, where you put a tape in them. Do you remember putting a tape into a console and you just get a green on black on a screen? Those are the days. Simple days of gaming. Still sexist though. Still be a guy saving a girl at the end of it. Let's see. Tim says he got a few hours in this week. Me too. Me too. Half term is a good time to catch up for me. Mainly RTS on laptop in the evenings, but a bit of DayZ. Ooh, that sounds good. On Xbox early in the week. Good times. Console games are good, aren't they? They're so high quality now. It's mind blowing how they even make them at this point. Stadia. Okay, good to see Stadia. You just need a controller and online gaming. Oh, okay, like Steam then. So probably a big library of games. Mal says yes. Choose games like Netflix, rent or buy. Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool. So it's just a massive library, and so it's like a Netflix but for gaming. I didn't even know that. You educated me there, Sobia. So easy access gaming world is the Google Stadia. People, get involved. I bet that'll be mentioned at E3 this week. Mal says BBCB. Oh, right. These are the cassette computers: Commodore 64, ZX Spectrum, all of these. Yes, Sinclair, ZX81. Well, somewhere amongst those is the Dragon. And that's what we had. But yeah, I remember going around to a friend's as well. I think he had a ZX Spectrum, and we would have a Batman cassette, which we put in. And oh, it's great. It was good times. But isn't it amazing how far in 30 years, how those green and black games have become these like lifelike, narrative driven, puzzle heavy, complex video games. It's just wild. It's wild. And, I think the future is going to be full of them. I think the future of classrooms in developed parts of the world, and I'm not sure I'm including the UK in that phrase, will include video gaming to some degree. I think there'll be ways, even when you think about reward systems, where we give kids planet points or we give them awards, like I think I mentioned earlier, and it's definitely been on my periphery this week, is like an award system, like a leveling up system. Somebody mentioned that on Twitter this week about when you give people planet points or house points, that could contribute to XP, which then levels them up, and kids can work towards different levels. And they I guess it could be a bit elitist and a little bit, that kid's, you got to be careful what you can award. You should be able to award anything, and therefore academic ability shouldn't limit it. But it's a pretty cool idea of motivating kids, maybe, especially if you give them actual trophies as well. Like on Xbox and PlayStation, you unlock trophies, and you want to get your 100% trophies and all of that. Be cool if you could, in class, you've attended, the whole year. You've unlocked this trophy. Here's a trophy to take home, and or whatever. Attendance is another kind of tricky area actually to debate. But there's other things as well where you can award whatever you've completed all of your writing challenges, or you've used a relative clause, booming 3 XP. You've you've divided a fractions without any help from the teacher, booming 3 XP. You're leveled up to level 12. Now you're cool. Who knows? I think that's cool. I think that's a good idea. Leveling up an XP, I think, would get kids more involved with their learning, but it has to be real. My brother sent me a thing earlier in the week saying about how they use Angry Birds on like level descriptors in lessons to say like, oh, you want to be like the best of the Angry Birds, and that shows you're at this level because you like this Angry Bird. For me, that was a bit not gratuitous. It's a bit aesthetic. It's just saying, it's just basically sticking an image on to make it more like, hey kids, I'm down with the kids. This looks cool. But actually, it needs to be, I would like a leveling up system in school where it's like embedded, across lots of subjects, across lots of staff, lots of different classes. And kids would go in with this goal to try again because they wanted to get those levels and level up. I think that'd be cool. Be a good way of kind of, when kids learn loads and they increase their motivation without really noticing. I think that'd be a good way to do it. But that's just my humble opinion. What do you think? Would that be a bad idea? Would it be a bit elitist to separate one from another from a leveling system? Would it be kind of cool? Would you want to be a top level person in your school, or is it me just rambling on with a bit of nonsense? I can see some people talking through the old consoles here. Mal and Tim are having a lovely jog down memory lane. 45 minutes to load. Yes, indeed. Comparable perhaps to when you load up the internet back in dial-up days in the late 90s, and it'd take about 15 minutes to log on, and it'd take about 3 hours to download a 3-minute song, stuff like that. Kids these days will never know they had it so well, people. They never know they had it so well. So what were we moving on to? Your life as a gamer. We got some people here who managed to get some gaming in their half term. I find it hard to even get games out of their cellophane unless I'm on the summer holidays. How about with friends? Do you game with friends? That's something I don't do online, but we do have friends who we like to visit, and we'll all like play Mario Party or Mario Kart together. And those are good social experiences, which again, I would like to promote that to younger people because it's a way we socially connect. Certainly when I was a teenager, the amount of friendships that were kind of made better from playing multiplayer games, GoldenEye, Mario Kart, you know, whatever. It's a good experience. And so I would like children to have those, but do them well, you know, do them in a way that they're loving it, they're having a great time. But obviously there's a lot of dangers that we've spoken through. And I do think they need to be mindful of those. We've got to be mindful for them as well. Something to think about, kids. Something to think about. That's it. That is our time. Would you believe that hour and a half has flown by? Talking about gaming. You know what I'm thinking about now? I'm looking to E3. I'm like double hyped. And in fact, with my hype, I decided in midway through this show, I thought, you know what? I'm going to play the E3 2004 reaction to the Zelda reveal because it was so ridiculous. I want you guys to share in the ridiculousness of it. This is the power of E3 and the excitement of revealing certain things. Apologies for the crackly noise and poor quality, but I'm about to finish up the show. Here's why E3 is amazing, shown via sound from 2004, revealing the new Zelda game. I know, it sounds bad. Wait for the crowd. This is not going well. All right, I'll stop it there. All you can hear there is just a crazy crackle of noise, but that's people losing their minds at E3. And that's hopefully what the later part of this week is going to feel like for me and Tim and Sobia and like-minded gamers who might be following the events of E3, as my Twitter is now starting to block out the teachers and it's starting to light up with all gaming news. So Mal says, was I playing that off a ZX Spectrum? I might well have been. On that bum note, let's wrap up and say, have a great week. Have a good time getting back to school. Enjoy E3. Look forward to all those little things. And I'll catch up with you all next week to talk on different things related to teaching. Have a good one, guys. You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.